How important is the cultural aspect in the context of performance optimization?
What was your motivation to start Culture Compass instead of reading the Times every day?
Okay, that's a very good question, and I'm delighted to share my learnings and my insight.
Our next question is quite personal, I think. It goes back to the young Denis Treacy, who studied in London.
Okay, so this is a little bit personal. So I come from a very strong Irish Catholic background.
Could you please share this secret with us?
When you're responsible for one sub-function like quality and food safety, you set your perspective around that.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Excellence Talk. As usual, together with Dr. Christian Forstner, we are welcoming an important guest and we will talk about a very interesting topic. Hello Christian.
Hello Murat, I hope you are very well.
Thank you, I'm very well. What about you?
I'm good, and I like this waterfall behind you.
Always with the nature.
Well, today we have a very, very interesting guest. His name is Denis Treacy. Denis, you founded Culture Compass in early 2019 after 40 years in various roles with global food manufacturers, and now represented under Unilever and other well-known brand names. And our first question relates to your many years of leadership experience in the food industry. In your last role, you were responsible as global president with a very large international food company, responsible for health and safety, product quality, and crisis management, and more. If you consider current challenges for supply chains on a global level, caused, for instance, by the COVID pandemic, or potential local risks related to Brexit, how much do global customers need to worry, Denis, about food health and safety in the future?
First of all, good morning, Murat, and good morning, Christian, and thank you both for the invitation to share some time with you and share some insight with you. Thank you very much indeed. The question of global supply chains is one that I've been engaged with for most of my working life. And it's a place that I feel most comfortable. So my concerns, I have experienced many events in my working life. You know, COVID is obviously without a doubt one of the most impactful that the world has ever seen, and certainly in our lifetimes. And if I think about the direct risk of COVID on food safety, I don't think there is anything specific. The work I've done with the Institute of Food Science and Technology, also to advise the government of the UK on best practices, suggests that while COVID doesn't represent a risk directly in food safety, the consequences of COVID will drive reductions, I believe, in things such as prime costs of resources. So I think businesses will start to think, in order to get back to profitability, businesses will start to think more carefully about the resources that they employ to manage governance. So I believe there's a concern and a threat there. I also believe that we are over-reliant these days on auditing. There seems to be an obsession with achieving an audit standard. And again, that is turning some of our technical resources, I even saw this in my own business, turning some of our technical resource into audit-ready resources. And we're losing the ability to make basic risk assessments and to manage change, Christian. So there are my main concerns for the future.
Thank you, Denis. You left the big food industry after 40 years, but you didn't retire. Rather, you founded Culture Compass that focuses on energizing performance cultures. What was your motivation to start Culture Compass instead of reading the Times every day?
Okay, so the first thing I will have to say is I spent my life with a business that I love dearly and I still love, Yildiz Holdings. I spent 30 years there and I felt that I could never work for another business like that. So I chose not to get another job because my heart still is with my business. But I still have a huge energy and a huge hunger and a desire and a love for the food industry. I made it my home for 40 years and I made 40 years of mistakes, which I learned from. But I presided over the manufacture of over 90 million tons of product during that time. And we didn't get things wrong. So we never had a major microbiological issue or a major allergen cross-contamination. So I know stuff. I want to share that information with the the world for the greater good of the UK and the world food supply chain. But my most important realization was that my skill was not in the science that I had, but in the leadership that I had. So driving and developing people and teams to find solutions and resolve issues themselves. So that's what I decided to share. And I used Culture Compass as the vehicle to share that knowledge and experience with other businesses and with people that want to learn.
Denis, culture seems to be a key word. Now, your range of services includes performance optimization, coaching and mentoring, and cultural transformation. One of your statements says, very interestingly, before you reorganize, reculture. You've invented a word here, and your focus seems to be on the culture. How important is the cultural aspect in the context of performance optimization?
Okay, that's a very good question, and I'm delighted to share my learnings and my insight. So I have seen I've seen change throughout my business. I've been part of a business that was owned by venture capitalists, that was quoted on the stock exchange, and also a part of a family business. And every time you change the leadership, you change the energy within the business. But if you retain a belief and a set of values that are the same, you can maintain the right level of consistency in everything you do. But what I found was that while all good businesses have good strategies, good organizations, Christian, good metrics, what makes a business great is the way that people behave and interact with each other, the relationships. Behavior is a game changer. And I have witnessed for myself new leaders taking the same team, re-energizing that team and turning a team of mediocre leaders into world-class leaders. So for me, great businesses, those that lead and those that disrupt, have a great culture. That's their unique opportunity.
Thank you, Denis. Our next question is quite personal, I think. It goes back to the young Denis Treacy, who studied in London. On your website and publications, we find a compass symbol with the words Fides Intrepida, which translates into fearless faith. It originates obviously from the crest of St. Joseph's College in London that you attended 1973 to 79 as expression of a culture of learning and betterment. Obviously, Fides Intrepida deeply impressed you when you were young and still is your vision now, almost after 50 years. Can you please tell us more about that?
Okay, so this is a little bit personal. So I come from a very strong Irish Catholic background, and faith has always been very, very important to me. And my father used to say to me, it doesn't matter what you believe in, as long as you believe in something. So that's given me faith in relationships. You don't need to see in order to have faith. And that's the principle of my beliefs. But I have faith in relationship, and faith comes from trust. This is the foundation of any relationship, whether it's a relationship with your family or with your associates or with your business colleagues. But most importantly, it's the foundation of leadership. If you can surround yourself with people who trust and believe in your journey, you can achieve whatever you desire. And that's my belief. That has been the theme through my life, I suppose.
Thank you for sharing this personal belief, Denis. Highly appreciate it.
Our next question is regarding your company. Your company, Culture Compass, helps organizations to step change performance of their supply chains on the basis of four energies: strategy, performance, organization, and culture. Why did you call these elements energies, and how can culture be specifically an energy during this transformation?
So if we just think about the basics, then culture is simply repeatable behaviors, and those start at the top. What I learned was whatever the level of acceptable behavior set by the leader is the standard that operates through a business. But what I determined was that there were four really key elements to what I call repeatable and predictable outcomes. So any process that you require, whether it's a manufacturing process or a system process, what you want is repeatable and predictable and sustainable outcomes. You want to be able to rely upon what comes out of any process. And that includes, products, food products out of a food process. So for me, that is set in the strategy. So a business determines its strategy, decides what risks and what risk profile it's going to take at the concept of the strategy. It then determines what performance is going to be measured. So how it's going to determine its performance, what it's going to measure, but more importantly, what it's going to target. The third thing is organization. You have to have a structure in place. You have to have accountability and communication. You need to have a hierarchy in order to translate information backwards and forwards. But culture is the thing that sets a good business apart from a great business. If we can embed behaviors in values and then align that behind a vision, and we trust ourselves, we can't fail.
Thank you, Denis, for the inspiring thoughts. Part of your value proposition of your organization, your company, Culture Compass, is to ensure reliable, predictable, and sustainable outcomes. These are also the aspects of the core of most excellence models in the world. Only very few people truly understand what sustainability means and how it relates to excellence. Both are extremely hard to achieve, as you know. But maybe you know a secret to ensure success. Could you please share this secret with us?
I am absolutely delighted to share what I've learned. When you're responsible for one sub-function like quality and food safety, you set your perspective around that. If you then grow that responsibility to include security and health and safety, and you take that UK knowledge and you grow it across Europe and then across the world, you get different life journeys, people with different beliefs, different systems, different ways of thinking, all congregating together and sharing their view about a solution. I standard for microbiological control back in 1988 into my business. That system has never failed in 30 years. So that's a fact, okay? And the reason I believe it's never failed is because I set in place the conditions for that to be successful rather than evaluating the consequence or spending my time evaluating the consequences. So I didn't wait for a result from a test to confirm what I already knew about my processes and about my products. So that's fundamental, setting conditions rather than consequences. The final thing is that I also recognize, as the US military did, by determining the phrase VUCA. It's a VUCA world out there. So it's volatile, it's uncertain, it's complex, and it's ambiguous. So while you can put trust and faith in the things that you believe in, and you put those conditions in place, as I said, the world is complex. So while I trusted in the systems that I had and planned for continuity, I always prepared for crisis as well. And that's the simple secret. And that has, as I said, given me 30 years of what I call zero defect.
Simple and so powerful, Denis.
Well, I'm delighted to say that, I have 1.4 billion consumers, confirming that fact, So I'm very pleased to share that knowledge with you all.
Isn't that impressive, Murat?
Indeed, it was impressive. It was a great insight to our listeners. I'm sure that they will help to all this knowledge to use their own compass in their life. Thank you very much for the great insight, Denis. It was a pleasure to have you in our Excellence Talk.
It was absolutely my delight and my pleasure to both you and to Christian. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and I really look forward to sharing further experiences with you in the future.
Thank you very much, and please stay safe.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you.